Welcome back to Trinidad and Tobago. International Women's Day was celebrated last week. We are here on the Morning Brew continuing to celebrate all of the amazing females amongst us who are doing big things. They're not just creating spaces for themselves, but they're allowing other women to follow suit. They're also ensuring that they take the risks, but they're doing it with style, they're doing it with class, and these are all extremely young women who at one time, you look at business owners, you look at the world of business, you look at the world of beauty. A lot of times they never go in the same sentence. But the two women on set this morning, well, they show you that they can be serious about business and beauty while looking fabulous at the same time. Joining us on set, we have Crystal Khan and we have Dr. Rachael Eckel. They are no strangers. Crystal is a contributor to the Guardian newspaper. I know that you write with our fitness magazine, also a fitness model.
Yes.
And a business owner. And Dr. Rachael Eckel has been described as the it girl of skincare for 2017. Moving on. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Hema. Thank you for having us.
Now, we're celebrating International Women's Day and women who are doing amazing things. Rachael, what does International Women's Day mean to you? And at the young age, because a lot of people don't know how young you are. I don't know if you mind, but she's extremely young. She's in her early 30s. Being a business owner and doing you. What does the day mean to you, basically? Let's start there.
So I think that moving back to Trinidad, I've had overwhelming support from the women of this nation. As a cosmetic doctor, I have taught and spoken all over the world about my field. I teach other doctors, I teach other physicians, and I have great support internationally from my peers and other women. But having moved back to Trinidad, Hema, I've experienced something very unique. I've experienced a level of support and love from the Trinidadian women that I have never experienced anywhere else in the world. And that is what has helped my clinic to do so well. If you look at my social media, most of the people that follow me, that engage with me, that comment, I'd say about 80 to 90% of them are Trinidadian women.
Really?
And so I think that moving back home and seeing the positivity and the love and the support from the fellow Trinidadians has been really, really overwhelming.
Chris, do you have that similar experience as being a female business owner? Do you find that it is more difficult for you? Are women supporting you? Do they celebrate your journey?
Women definitely celebrate. They tell me that I inspire them, whether it be in the beauty aspect and of course with fitness, to help to teach them how to eat properly, what supplements to take, what exercises they can do. And they're surprised to know that they don't have to kill themselves with cardio, they don't have to lift super heavy weights or anything, and it's just diet is key, everything in moderation, little bit and whatnot. So it's been surprising that I actually have a really nice female fan base. So if they reach out to me, I am going to respond to give them that advice to help them on their journey as well too.
How did you discover that this is going to be your path? Because you started off as a model and then entered into the world of fitness and then now doing nutrition. How did you discover that this is the journey that I wanted to do?
I kind of fell into it by accident, actually. I've always had a passion for fitness. I've always been in the gym. I've always been training. When it came to the diet, it's been a trial and error even for myself. I didn't know everything that I knew now. I kind of wish I knew it in my early 20s, stuff like that, but just little by little, because when you do something that you're passionate about, the success just kind of comes. So I'm just doing what I love to do, and people are reaching out to me like, you know what, I like what you're doing. How can you help me? How can you, motivate me? What can I do? Because the same way that I was lost a couple of years ago, there's so many women and men. I actually have a male following as well that would ask me about the different supplements that I'm taking. Everything is 100% natural. You don't need to take drugs, or I mean that's the stereotype that we have in the bodybuilding community. But I'm showing them that it can be done as naturally as possible.
Before we get into the bodybuilding part, because that's your part that you're working. Yes. Let me ask you. You are a medical doctor, and a lot of people don't know that. But at what point did you decide I want to then do the beauty aspects of it? And did you find it very difficult to make that transition?
So I think that's a very good question and something that needs to be addressed, especially in Trinidad, because what I do is very new to this country. I am a doctor in aesthetic medicine. Yeah. So what does that mean? So as an aesthetic doctor, like a regular physician, I go to school for 6 years. I went to school in Ireland, and I won 6 first place medals for outstanding achievement as a Trinidadian female in the college. And then actually when I finished with college, I didn't know what I wanted to be. So I actually went into emergency and trauma medicine. So my first specialty is actually, dealing with acute myocardial infarctions, dealing with patients who come in with overdoses, dealing with acute lung syndromes, and basically saving lives of very acutely sick patients. But that definitely wasn't my passion. And I was on the fast track to becoming a consultant in emergency medicine. And it didn't speak to me. And then I discovered this new field of aesthetic medicine, which is kind of like the new evolution of plastic surgery. So it's basically all the beauties of plastic surgery minus the downtime, minus the invasiveness. You can come in for a procedure and go back home, an hour later or back to work, and there's no downtime. But I think that even though what I do has a cosmetic and an anti-aging perspective to it, Hema, 9 out of 10 patients that I see on a day-to-day basis in my clinic, it's disease I'm dealing with. For example, with skin. Yeah. It's melasma, it's acne, it's rosacea, it's people with really debilitating conditions that they don't want to leave their house. They're covering their face with camouflage makeup, and we change their lives when we improve their skin. Also, when you think of things like Botox, for example, I'm not just doing Botox for cosmetic reasons, I do it a lot for medical reasons. When you see patients with asymmetries and Bell's palsy, or patients, for example, with fillers, you can do things with fillers where, if you have an asymmetry or you have a problem where, you're unequal in different sides or whatnot, there's so much of medicine in what I do, although there is a cosmetic part to it too.
Do you think that people downplay that part of it? Because it is relatively new. I mean, when you go to LA or you go to any part in the US, it's so known. You go to Miami, everybody, and they look at the cosmetic surgeons as medical. They see them on par with the medical doctors. They are the famous ones, the Kim Kardashian doctors. Everyone knows them. Do you find in Trinidad you are dealing with that stereotypical perception as, oh, she's just a beautician, or you're just dealing with beauty, and it's a little less in terms of the prestige as a doctor who's in a trauma center?
I think that when I first began, there was no aesthetic doctor in Trinidad. So people didn't quite know, does she do facials? So I would have people call my clinic and say, can I book a facial with Dr. Eckel? And a facial is something that an esthetician does. So you would spend 3 months to 6 months doing a course, how to do facials or eyebrow waxing or that sort of thing. But a physician, I've spent 14 years getting to this point. And so when I first arrived, I think there was a little bit of confusion as to what's the difference between her and somebody who does facials, for example. But now that I've been in practice for a year and a half and my work is out there and they see my techniques and, they see my incredible transformation in my results that is getting traction all over the world, I think they understand now the difference between an esthetician and an aesthetic doctor.
Crystal, do you feel that you have to prove yourself? And you mentioned the fact that you're a fitness model and fitnesses, and you're a bodybuilder.
Yes.
Because even Jesse, who is in the newsroom watching this interview, he's totally into the gym. He goes, have you seen her body? And being a female in bodybuilding, that's in itself, how did you make that decision to transcend from what we consider to be the stereotypical soft, feminine aesthetic into, you know what, let me embrace not the muscular part of it, but my strength?
Well, to be very honest, I'm a bikini girl. So I'm in the bikini category of bodybuilding. So what's nice about that category, it's the most attainable for the average woman. So it's just about having a nice diet, proper exercise regime. But it's hard to, when we have to do a show, we have to do the process of drying out, dropping the water, etc., so that the muscle definition would show. So only on that day of competing, I would look super muscular. So everyone would see those pictures and get the impression that's what I look like all the time. Whereas right now, this is what I essentially look like all the time, with the water, with everything, because I'm still female, you know what I mean? We tend to have a little water weight, the extra estrogen, and whatnot. So it's just to have to educate society that...
Do people criticize you for being a fitness model and for challenging that conventional norm?
I get criticized for being a bodybuilder. When they see the pictures, I'll always get the comments, don't get too hard, don't do this, don't look too muscular, don't be taking drugs, etc. And I'm like, that's just, nope, that's not how it is at all. So it's just, the hardest part is just educating people on that. And once they start to understand that, then I think they're becoming a little bit more open-minded when it comes to that aspect.
The open-mindedness of our society. And also when we come back from this break, we talk to these women about the business aspect of what they do, because they're not just leading walking a different path, but they're also business owners. Is being female working for them or against them? Stay with us. This is the Morning Brew.
'Cause I am Superwoman. Yes, I am.
Welcome back to Trinidad Spirit. We're continuing our conversation with Crystal Khan and Dr. Rachael Eckel. Rachel, I have to ask you, we're celebrating women who are doing progressive things. You are, in addition to starting a new field, basically, and entering uncharted territory, you're a business owner. A young business owner, a young female business owner. Is it difficult for you?
I think that there are pros and cons of being a female aesthetic doctor. The pros is that basically most of my clientele are female. So I feel like I can relate to them very well when they ask me certain issues, let's just say about makeup, right? So that's definitely a pro. I also think that being a female in medicine has its pros. We know, for example, from a big study that was done in 2017 in the Journal of American Medical Association, JAMA, which is a very highly revered sort of journal, that female physicians were seen to be more communicative, more empathetic. They dealt more with emotional and psychological features with patients, and as a result, this study showed that in comparison to men, they had lower mortality rates and lower hospital admissions for certain diseases. So I think that females definitely are more communicative, and that is something that I bring into my clinical practice and has a big effect on my clients. But in addition to that, the study showed something that really resonates with me with my patients, which is that females tend to speak more about preventative measures with their patients. So on Friday, I had this patient come in with really bad acne on his face and his back. And he was about 37, and he'd been treated by many, many different physicians, and all of the therapies had failed. And he came in and we were talking about different things that cause acne. And I started to talk about diet, and he said, diet? He's like, but my male physician prior to you, my male dermatologist, said to me that diet has absolutely no role to play with acne, and that's just a waste of time. And I had to laugh.
And even
because
Crystal was like, what?
Because I spent almost 25 minutes talking to him about, you know, refined food, sugar, dairy. There was a landmark trial that was done on Kitava Island in Papua New Guinea, whereby there isn't one case of acne on the entire island.
God, I should have lived it.
There's no acne, no blackheads, no acne scarring, and it is strictly because of what the Kitavans eat.
Yeah.
So it's like, so I love the fact that being female, I am more communicative. I also deal a lot with preventative measures. But
as a business owner, does it work against you to make the tough decisions? And also people, because of your age and the fact that, you know, we'll talk about the perceptions of being in the beauty business, but do people attempt to walk over you? Do they attempt to bully you? Do they not respect you? How does it work as a business owner now?
Well, as a doctor, what I realize, and this is not just in Trinidad, but I realize it internationally with other female physicians, is that in general, people tend to refer to male doctors as Dr. Smith, as Dr. Roberts. But when it comes to female physicians, they say Rachael, or they say Crystal, and they tend not to call us doctor. And whether that is because maybe they have more of a personal connection with us, I'm not sure, but I definitely notice a difference there. I teach and educate all over the world, and I notice that when I speak on panels at large aesthetic conferences, that they're mainly male orientated. I'm usually the youngest female on the panel, and I'm the only female. But Hema, that is definitely changing, because what's happening at these conventions is that, for example, I was in one in Monaco a couple of months back, and it was a panel of all of these, you know, esteemed, much older plastic surgeons and physicians, and I was the youngest female, and I'm usually the only person from the Caribbean at these conferences. And when these older plastic surgeons couldn't answer certain questions about skin or whatnot, they all gave me the mic, and they were like, does Rachael know? And it was this wonderful sort of shift in this paradigm where you have a female on the board, you have a young person, you have a young Caribbean person who is able to answer some of these really difficult questions, having treated ethnic skin and whatnot. So I do think that the paradigm is definitely changing.
Chris, do you find it difficult being a young business owner yourself, female, to be, and also you're in a very male-dominated industry. If you talk about the fact that fitness trainers, a lot of times people think trainers, they think men, they go to men for advice, they go to men for their supplements. being a business owner, is it difficult for you?
Well, no, not in the fitness aspect, but I would say with the micropigmentation, because that's what I also do as my full-time
Right.
job, which is microblading. I do tattooing of the scalp, tattooing of the areola, tattooing of the eyeliner. Because I look so young, they question my ability and my experience. When I tell them I have 10 years of experience, they will be like, well, how old are you? You know, so then once I'm able to tell them my age, then they have a little bit more confidence that, okay, she knows what she's talking about. You know, you're so-and-so age, I'm not gonna say. So, and you're able to keep yourself together. You don't look your age. How can you help me? What can you do for me? I want to be able to, I wanna look like you. I wanna live your lifestyle. Like, teach me. But in the bodybuilding world, I would say no. I'm fully accepted by a lot of the male counterparts as well too. They're very accepting. They're very supportive. They give me fabulous advice, which is
you know,
great.
I want to bring it back. You talk about the advice that you see, which is that work-life balance. Business owner, doctor, having your clinic, and you know, also you're in the beauty industry. How do you deal with criticisms and kind of being you at the same time?
I think that that's something we all have to work on, being in the public limelight. And I don't think it's something that comes easy. I think that you need a support system around you of beautiful, positive people who will just, you know, shower you with the positivity and the positive message. And I also think that doing certain things, for example, not necessarily letting negative comments on social media get to you, or if somebody said something negative about you, focusing more on the positives. And I think that this actually relates back to a concept about women that I think is important for us to appreciate, that some women can be very supportive of other women, but some women can also be very negative towards other women. And this goes back to the field of evolutionary biology, whereby let's imagine this gorgeous, beautiful woman walks into a room and she's got on a beautiful dress and everybody's eyes just turn to her, and there's this goddess walking in the room. And we're at a table of women, and some women will say, oh my gosh, wow, she's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Who is she? How do I meet her? And they get up and they go and they interact with her because they want to learn her story. They want to engage with her. They want to have a piece of her. But then the other woman at the table might say, you know, she looks a little bit done, or, you know, is this or that fake, or I don't like the dress, it's too gaudy, and they tend to put her down. And the psychology behind this is that the ones that tend to put the other female down tend to have insecurities about themselves. And when they're not feeling confident in themselves, they look to that person to put them down, to make them feel better. And it's because they feel that if they do go up to that person and engage with them, they have this fear of rejection, that they're going to be excluded, that they're going to be dismissed. And so I've been there myself. I've been on both sides of the table. I've been there where I've supported other women, and I've also been there at times when I lost 80 pounds. I was 80 pounds overweight. I didn't feel confident in myself. And I've been there, you know, sitting at the table, feeling fat in my dress, and maybe passing a negative comment about another woman. But at the end of the day, it came back to me, and it was my issues with myself and my self-confidence. And I think that when we feel our best, that's when we also support other women. So what you do, you put yourself out there to feel your best and put your best foot forward, as do I. I take care of myself, I keep my weight off, or I try to, you know, and I think that we should encourage other women that when you are saying negative things about another woman, look inside and look to see what it is that is making you feel self-conscious about yourself, and maybe try and shift the focus to that and improving that.
Rich, let me ask you the same question as we wrap this interview. You know, to other women, because a lot of times I can tell you that, and I made the point, and somebody said, you just have to look at that individual and not think it's a thing about women. Because the most horrific plots that I've ever had committed against me as a human being is probably orchestrated by females.
Yes.
And it's true. It's really the truth.
Yes.
But how do you deal with that and keep doing what you're doing and creating a path for other women, other young girls looking at you to say, I want to be a fitness model, I want to embrace my lifestyle, I like this and I want to do this?
Just do it. Just do it. Ignore everyone. Ignore what they have to say. If there's something that makes you happy and you see the light at the end of the tunnel for yourself, just go for it, go be strong, and just achieve your goals. Same as you guys. I mean, I have sometimes people making fake profiles and they'll leave these harsh comments, and I'm just like, well, I would just send them love and blessings. And I'm like, you know, you're clearly a very disturbed individual, and I really hope one day you figure yourself out. But that's just wrong. To send off negative energy, you only just get that back. So the best thing to do is just ignore it. I know it's very difficult to do that sometimes because some comments can be really hurtful. But you know what? Just do you, do what you have to do, stay on your mission, stay on your path, and just don't let anyone bring you down. That's the best advice that I can give.
You have the final word this morning, Rachael. What do you know, as we're celebrating women that are doing great things, and you have both been identified as trailblazers, what do you want to say to all of the young girls looking at you to say, you know, that I want to do something, I don't know what to do. You both come from very established families. Crystal comes from her father's a politician. To decide that, you know what, you're going to do your own thing. What do you want to say to all the young girls out there?
Based on what you just said, I'm going to echo that. I think that there's a lot of noise and negativity out there, and you cannot cure the disease that is negativity and that is people putting you down. And so I think you have to focus on what is your dream, what is your goal. You can absolutely be anything you want to be, but focus on the end game. There's a quote that goes, if you throw stones at every dog that barks, you'll never reach your end game. So focus on the end, focus on the positivity, and everything else will fall in place.
Was there ever a time that both of you thought that maybe it was just too much to do something new, that you are female, and the fear of failure, was the fear of failure ever too much for you, and how did you get the strength to continue?
I think yes. At times I wonder, am I pushing myself too much? And I have big dreams, Hema. I'm only 34 and my dream has only just begun. And I think that sometimes my dreams absolutely scare me, but I look back at what I've achieved at such a young age and I know that it is absolutely doable. And same for you.
Yeah.
You've done so well.
Yes, thank you. Same as me. I mean, you always
You put yourself out there in competition. You gave us a story. When you go out there, it's like you're competing. You literally take yourself, and this is your work.
Yeah, but you know what? The fear of failure is always going to be there in every endeavor that you do. But you know what? I accept the failure because that's the only way that you learn. You're able to fix and say, okay, how can I do this a little bit better and move forward? So at the same time, yeah, it's disappointing when you fail, but that's the only way you learn and that's the only way you succeed. So I embrace it rather than fear it.
I congratulate both of you, and I
Thank
know that
you.
we'll continue to see both of these women continuing to do great things. Take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more for you. Stay with us. This is the Morning Brew.